And so, for Emerson, he said, well, what's the nature of mind? What's the nature of governance? What's the nature of justice? You know, what is the nature of everything? You know, then how can anybody claim supremacy or dominance over another person or tribe or culture? How could you do that? From whence does that arise? That is mental sickness, you know. And in a sense, nature became the metaphor of the mind for him. And I want to read you a passage from his journal at that time. And he said, if I go, this is Emerson, if I go into the forest, I find all new and undescribed. Nothing has been told me. The screaming of the wild geese never heard. The thin note of the titmouse and his bold ignoring of the bystander. The fall of the flies that patter on the leaves like rain. The angry hiss of some bird that crepitated at me yesterday. The formation of turpentine, and indeed any vegetation, any animation, any and all, are alike undescribed. Each man that goes into the wood seems to be the first, this is me, woman that ever went into the wood. Nature grows over me. Frogs pipe, waters far off tinkle, dry leaves hiss, grass bends and rustles. Okay, now, was he in an altered state of consciousness? Was he smoking something? Or is that our natural state of mind? And I say that's the natural state of the human mind. And the altered state of consciousness is Western civilization at this moment, right? Which has this delusion of separation. Because this is a person, again, who is having this extraordinary experience where somebody else will just walk through it and pass through and not see anything at all. And when you see yourself as separate, you won't see much except yourself. Kind of boring, really, when you think about it. I was talking earlier about depression, and a study came out recently that said that, this doesn't sound very hopeful, but nevertheless, that depressed people actually have a better sense of themselves. And that people who are happier overestimate how good looking they are and how smart they are by at least 40%. But it brings up this idea of hope. And what I'm going to recommend to you tonight is going to be so anathema when you hear it, but I really recommend that you be hopeless. Be hopeless about the future. And the reason you should be hopeless is hope is the other side of fear. If you don't have fear, there's nothing to hope for. If you have hope, you are carrying your fear along in a rucksack behind you everywhere you go. And what we need to do and be is we need to be fearless. It doesn't mean we will not experience fear and it won't confront us. But we need to be fearless as we move into this transformation, because that's how to be effective. And then what are we afraid of anyway? Are we afraid of dying? How stupid. We're all going to die. We are. That's the only thing I've said tonight you can count on, is that we're all going to die. Right? For sure. So if we're afraid to die, then we're not alive. It's that simple. And you're afraid to die when you think you're yourself only. Right? And so this is what this awakening is about. And once you have that, then you're free. You're free. And we can approach the overwhelming issues and problems that confront us with joy. Or we can be hopeful and full of fear and be full of anxiety and trepidation and approach it that way. Which do you choose? Because the problems don't care whether you're joyous or morose. They're still there. I say sing and dance all the way, right? But what happened here, going back to Emerson, is that, and this is the next point I want to make. So I thought, okay, you know, here's this man, he wrote this, came back, he wrote this book, Nature. The first hippie at Harvard University was one of the first people to buy the book, Henry David Thoreau, all right? And he read it again, invited Emerson to be the senior, the speaker at the senior class graduation. Emerson was the speaker. Thoreau asked him if he could have tea with him. He went to his house in Cambridge and asked for his advice, what to do, and Emerson said, keep a journal, which he did then from that day on for 7,000 pages until he died. And that's where you have Walden, and so many essays came out of that journal. But what happened with that journal was then this day when he was arrested for not paying the poll tax. He went to jail for a night and a day. But he did something that had never happened before. And the apocryphal story was Emerson going there and saying, you know, Henry, like, what are you doing in jail? And he was saying, Waldo, what are you doing outside of jail? Why are you out there? And in that apocryphal, it didn't happen, by the way, but it's a wonderful story. But that story is emblematic of something that happened there, which is Thoreau made going to jail honorable. And it was not honorable anywhere in the world at that time. You did not do it. And why is that so important? It's really important because 50 years later, almost to the day after Thoreau's essay called Civil Disobedience is published. Did I say 50? I meant 40. 40 years later, there was a young lawyer in Durban, South Africa, who's met with his Hindu and Muslim brothers and sisters, and they're asked to register under the Asiatic Registration Act in South Africa, apartheid, and they elect to not register, and he knows as a barrister, as a solicitor, he will go to jail, and he may lose his license to practice. And he is gloomy in his journal. He's writing a journal that night. You read his journal, he's not happy. This is Mohandas K. Gandhi. Okay. And a few days later, somebody at the Indian Times gives him Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience, and he is overjoyed. And a few days later, he's arrested, and he holds it up as he's going into jail. That and Ruskin. And the thing about that essay is that Thoreau never used the term civil disobedience. No one knows who titled it. No one knows where the term came from. But it became an extraordinary anthem, if you will, for nonviolent resistance. And what he said, though, in the essay is that when the government is unjust, the just man is in jail. Right? And so for Gandhi, it was like, thank you, and that. And then 50 years after that, almost, you know, the same thing happens again. This time, it's a young Baptist preacher who's been asked to come to Montgomery, Alabama, to lead the Montgomery bus boycott. And within weeks after he comes there and starts the boycott, the front porch of his house is blown up with his wife and 2 children in it. He's not there. And when people come from New York, from civil rights leaders, this new, young, eloquent, handsome preacher named Martin Luther King, then they go into his house and they sit down on the sofa and chairs, and there's guns under everything. Every cushion has a rifle, a pistol. It's like an armed encampment. And they're all like, whoa, whoa. And they asked Martin Luther King, have you ever heard of Gandhi? And he said, yes, I've heard of it. He said, well, you should read it, you know, his autobiography. And so they give him Gandhi's autobiography and Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience. And that Sunday, he's completely changed what he's saying about resistance. Now, the reason I mention these is not because you know about King and Gandhi, you know, Thoreau, of course. What I'm talking about is the people we don't know. We don't know Joanna Robinson. who actually brought Martin Luther King and started the boycott. We never heard of her, but she was the man. She was the person who really made that happen. We don't know about friends of Rosa Parks who actually got arrested, and a white couple who sent her to the Highlander School where she learned nonviolent resistance, from Miles Horton, who learned it from Gandhi. Okay. We don't know who is this person who handed Gandhi the essay. Right? We don't know who changed the title of the essay, The Civil Disobedience. What I'm saying here is, you and I, we don't know the results of our actions. Those are very innocuous, simple things that somebody did. They had no idea the repercussions and how it would echo through history. And you can run it tape backwards and say, what if they hadn't? And who knows? We don't know. These are great men and women. I'm not trying to say they were made great by these actions, but history changed because of very simple acts. And the thing is, what I'm saying is, there's no action that we do that is inconsequential. The most consequential thing is inaction. That's what's consequential. So it's what I'm asking you here to do is not take on, like Atlas, the burden of what's going wrong in the world. Don't do that. That's horrible. You'll have bad dreams. You'll wake up to your listserv and have worse dreams, but now you're awake, What the world wants from us, from you, is what do you love? Where are you respected? What do you have passion about? That's where you're effective. That's where we need you to act. And the reason I wrote Blessed Unrest and started to do this database of all these organizations in the world, so you would know, so we would know, if you're not handling it, somebody else is. I tell you, I guarantee it, that there are millions and millions, maybe 100, 200 million people out there who are thinking and taking care and worrying and focusing their energy on something that you cannot. So you can relax into this extraordinary family of brothers and sisters who are out there, and who are smart and educated and courageous and fierce and kind and generous. We don't know these people, but I'm telling you, they're there. They're everywhere. Every city, every county, every shire, every tribe, every culture, every country. I'm not sure about North Korea, but every country.
That would make sense.
Coming to a neighborhood near you soon, but North Korea. But we are a we. And we can't see ourselves. And so, thank goodness your counselors are here. This is fantastic. And thank goodness, Circle's here. And I don't know you, but thank God you're here. And this is what's happening. We come together. We connect. And what we know from ecosystem science and ecology, what we know about our own health, about immune systems, is that the way you heal a system is to connect more of it to itself. That is, the healing is innate. We know what to do. We may not have figured it out, but on a deeper level, we do know what to do. We're very intelligent. We really are. So, again, it's like we can relax into this.